if you don't comply by the 1st of July, you cannot get paid by your client because your invoices never arrive to your buyer. Right? That's not
invoices.
a tax problem. That's a business problem.
Correct.
Right?
Our special guest today is Pierre Arman.
Especially for CFOs, is especially when it comes to e-invoicing. People see it purely as a compliance play, whereas 99% of the benefit of e-invoicing are missed if you just think of it as a compliance play. There is a lot of people who talk about it. Very few actually know what they are talking about. You see people claiming they have 10 years worth of Gen AI experience. It's only come out in the public for like 3 years ago. Like, what are you talking about?
What are some of the low-hanging fruits for CFOs which they can leverage in terms of strategizing their tax or looking at a certain tax technology?
So,
Hello everyone, my name is Dhawal and welcome to another episode of Brains Behind Money by CXO Verse. Imagine this, tax is always seen as compliance, but if you get the right structuring and if you get the right technology, tax can be a strategic advantage. That is what we'll try and unpack today. And our special guest today is Pierre Arman. He's a tax leader with 2 decades of experience and currently working as managing director at Alvarez Marsal. Welcome, Pierre, to the podcast.
thank you very much for having me.
So your journey has been amazing. You started with Thomson Reuters and then EY and now managing director at Alvarez Marsal. So take us through your journey and what have been your key learnings along the way.
Yeah, sure. So Thomson Reuters was very close to my very first job. So started that in London a few years back now. I won't say how many, but it is quite a while ago. And I was always very keen on technology. But my background and my studies were more around tax and finance and accounting back into France. And I did kind of a master of a business in London. And so I wanted to try to work in the technology space. And I had never heard of this company called Thomson Reuters. And they had this job about helping people with tax technology. I had no idea what that meant, but I still applied for it. I got the job and completely randomly kind of fell into that world, right? So I work in tax, but I really work within a tax technology angle to it. So I look at tax as data as opposed to regulation. Because there are people who are much better than me at regulation. So my game is all about data, more than that. And so kind of starting that with Thomson Reuters for quite a while. I worked with them in London, in Australia for a bit, and then in Dubai. So I kind of opened their tax software business here back in very end of 2014.
Interesting.
And then just before COVID hit, I took a job as a partner in London with EY. I stayed there for quite a bit and then came back to Dubai because I was missing Dubai and the sun, I'll be honest. And yes, about just over a year ago now, I kind of started at Alvarez Marsal. And so there I do 2 things really. So I look after our tax technology practice, but I also lead our global e-invoicing practice, which is, I know, one of the topics that you want to talk about today, because it will be a very relevant topic in the next few months in the UAE.
So tax technology is such a niche, right? So how do you end up there?
It's very niche. I'm like a double geek, right? Because tax is already quite niche. And tax technology is a very, very small world. But I look at it that way, is regardless of what tax you are talking about, at the end of the day, especially today, it's all about data, right? It's about, do you have enough data? Is it correct and accurate? How do you extract it? What do you need to do to transform it? How often do you need to report it? right? And most of the tax type out there today, you can summarize them with that, right? As simple as that. So that's kind of what I do. And a big thing around e-invoicing is you actually go beyond tax, right? Because e-invoicing is really about finance and business transformation as opposed to just a tax play. Tax is a very important stakeholder in that, but finance and the business should be the main driver of that, because the consequences of non-compliance are business problem, not tax problem.
Right. It's interesting to see. I never thought about tax from a data angle. I come from a CFO background, so CFOs are extremely ROI driven.
Yes.
So why do CFOs need to think about tax technology? How can it help them?
Well, so especially in this region, right, where tax was never really a big issue up until 8 years ago, right, when VAT was introduced for the first time. But now you have VAT, you've got transfer pricing, you've got corporation tax, right, and now you're going to have e-invoicing as well on top. There is I think, I guess a challenge or a risk that companies are doing here, which is they have a very knee-jerk reaction to regulation, right? So something happens. What do we need to quickly fix it and be compliant? And then we just move on to the rest, right? And by doing that, you do not get most of the benefit of trying to take a step back, have a more strategic overview about what is it that you want to do, right? And maybe by making a bigger investment today, you will have a much better saving and cost efficiencies in the future, right? As opposed to just do a very small investment today and having to redo it again and again and again every time something happens, right? So that's one of the things people need to think about. The other one, I think, especially for CFOs, is especially when it comes to e-invoicing, you have people see it purely as a compliance play, whereas 99% of the benefit of e-invoicing are missed if you just think of it as a compliance play. So, and I'll give you two very basic examples. One is on everything that you buy, right? You're going to have the same standardized invoice with the same field, all electronic for everything that you buy in the UAE, let's say, right? Once it's live, which means you can reintegrate all those invoices automatically back into your system, right? You can then automate how you reconcile those invoices, how you do your three-way matching, right? How you do your PO matching, right? So you have a ton of efficiencies there to be gained, right? On the sales side, because you sell, and I guess the invoice that you send is electronic and is supposedly received automatically by your buyer, which means your days of sales outstanding, your DSO should go down, right? But that is work that you have to do in advance with your clients, so you can potentially renegotiate your payment term, right? Because now they get your invoice instantly, right? So, and you see some countries, for instance, like Spain, where they're going to mandate a 30-day payment term.
Oh, Spain's going to mandate 30-day payment term for everybody.
Because you receive your invoice instantly. So that there is no reason why you can't pay within 30 days, potentially. Right?
Interesting.
Now, there are more complexities around it than just everybody for 30 days, but that's where the world is going, right? So if you think about it from a more strategic standpoint, that's the sort of benefit you can get as a business.
So I never thought about invoicing being an opportunity to be far more efficient. I'm sure most of the CFOs listening to this would want to leverage on those efficiencies. So for which they need to build a business case for implementing a certain tax technology. So what would be your top advice for CFOs to get that business case done?
To think about that, So the first thing they need to be aware of is they're going to have some budget anyway, because in a country like the UAE, right, the system will be that you need to buy a software that has been approved by the FTA and MOF, because they're going to be the only one who can transact e-invoices in the UAE. So you need to have budget in anyway, because you're going to be forced to spend. That's the first point. So your business case has to be there anyway, right? The second point is you need to look at how many invoices your business issues, right? So the one of the key driver behind how much you're going to pay in the UAE is how many invoice you generate, right? So there are smarter ways to, for instance, use a summary invoice to reduce the amount of invoice that you generate, as a business, and that then helps you when it comes the time to buy an accredited service provider in the UAE for e-invoicing, who is going to charge you by the invoice to send them less invoice, so you pay them less.
Understood.
Right? Now, in terms of if you go further into the business case, if you look at how many of those invoices today would fail, right? And if you look at the potential fines and the penalties that has now been amended in the VAT law for e-invoicing, the numbers rack up very quickly, right? Because officially it's 2,500 dirhams per incorrect document.
Per incorrect document. Oh man.
Now, I'm not saying that from the 1st of July, right? But that's, in theory, what can happen, right? That's the risk that you carry, right? And the biggest risk that a CFO carry is if you don't comply by the 1st of July, you cannot get paid by your client because your invoices never arrive to your buyer, right? That's not invoices. A tax problem. That's a business problem, right? If you can't get paid, right? Tax is the least of your concern.
Right. I mean, you've always been vocal about this fact that invoicing is a business problem rather than,
of course,
a compliance problem. So can you throw some light on how invoicing is going to impact business processes?
Yeah.
Or what is the kind of re-engineering that companies need to do?
So, well, if you think about it in a simple way, you're going to have your standard operating procedures, your SOPs, that are going to have to be rewritten on how you buy and how you sell, right? How you process an invoice, how you generate an invoice, that will change, right? So if from a changing standpoint, if you've got people, process, technology, right? That's the usual thing. So process is all your SOPs are going to have to be rewritten. Your people will have to be retrained, and there is a change management exercise that needs to happen, right? Because how you do business change in a way, or at least how you do invoicing is being upgraded to something different, right? And so the people that have been in your business for the past 20 years who are used to do something one way are going to have to change a little bit. Not 100%, but a little bit. So they have to be trained for that, right? And technology means so you need to understand how many systems today are generating a document, an invoice, a credit note, whatever. Where is that data held, and how many integration points do you need with your accredited service provider to ensure that at any point in time during your supply chain, the correct document is being generated by the right system at the right point in time, right? So these are the impacts, right, at a high level. And one of the major impact that people are sometimes seem to forget is everybody had to be ready for VAT, right? We're talking about that offline. But obviously, I was here doing the VAT introduction back in 2018. So most people have their system ready to an extent from a transactional level, right? They know how to apply tax on a transaction, right? And they know how to generate a proper invoice for tax because they have to, because of VAT. The interesting bit about e-invoicing in the UAE is it goes beyond the scope of the UAE VAT law. You have to report every commercial transaction. So even your non-taxable transaction have to be reported, right?
Okay.
Now, here, one of the many things that happened during the VAT implementation was the creation of VAT groups, okay?
Yeah.
And any transaction within those groups are out of scope from a VAT standpoint. So as a business, you don't have to do anything, right? You're not obliged to raise a proper invoice if you don't want to. You should, from a process standpoint, but you don't have to. Now, all those transactions are in scope for invoicing. You have to report those
So we have to
transactions.
raise an invoice for everything,
For
irrespective of
everything.
whether it is a VAT applicable invoice or not.
Or not. Exactly.
Okay.
Right? So that is a huge piece of work for a lot of companies who have not thought about that. Right? And so that's also one of the consequences is you're going to have to firm up your processes overall as a business because you're going to be forced to expose all your transaction instantly to the FTA, basically. If you think about it, right? That's what happens in that way is it goes out of your system and at the same time that it goes towards your buyer, it goes straight to the FTA.
Yeah.
So they can see everything.
So I mean, you have seen invoicing being implemented in other countries, right? And what were some of the preparation points that clients have successfully done to prepare themselves before the invoicing hit them?
So, so one of the mistake that a lot of people have done everywhere else is not having enough time to get ready. Because we are all human beings. We look for a shortcut.
We wait till the last moment.
Right? We try to push it for as long as we can, and then we try to look for a shortcut on how to fix it. Fine. We've all done it. But the problem with that is you are at risk if you try to do that with e-invoicing. So the first step, and the people that have done this very successfully are the ones that have started to basically look at how they're going to be impacted. So we call this an impact assessment, right? As early as possible. As soon as you know it's about to come and you have a minimum of information, you should start to get ready. Because what that allows you is you look at every single transaction, right, that you do as a business and which one you need to report. You look at all your system, right? Because in the new world of e-invoicing, it's a machine world. I know at some point you have a question about AI, but it becomes a machine world, right? It's black and white. So on every single invoice, you need 50 fields, right? If you give it 49, it's still a fail. It's not a pass with a, no, it's fail. It's either good, you either have 50 or 0, okay? So you need to look at all your system and work out, do you have all the data? Is it captured in the right way, right? Then 99.9% of clients have difficulty with their master data inside their system, right? Their supplier, their client, their address, the trade license name,
incomplete data,
the VAT number, etc., etc., etc. Those have to be updated. You don't have a choice because these are checked even before your invoice can go to your buyer, right? So if these are not updated, it will fail constantly. Doesn't matter, right? Yeah. So all that work needs to be done before you go and buy a piece of tech. And that's the tech guy that tells you that, right? So, and we see a lot of people, a lot of mistakes have been done is people rush to buy a piece of software before being ready to even be able to use it. It doesn't matter if it's the biggest or the best software for invoicing in the entire world. If you can't feed it the right data, it's useless. Yeah. Absolutely useless, right? So sorry I'm a bit too long in my answer, I know, but so to go back to your question is, what are the people that have done this very well, or the people that start early? There is no shortcut. You need to do your homework, and I can tell you in the UAE, as I'm speaking to you today, right? I see two different sorts of clients. at the moment that I have. I have clients who have started the impact assessment back in April this year. Now they have done it, it's finished, and now they are already starting to cleanse the master data, to look at their system, and now they're going to have to look at the software that they want. And you've got clients who are just about to send the RFP to look for an impact assessment.
Oh man, already falling behind by 6 months.
Right? That's the difference between the one that are going to be ready on time with the least amount of fixes and errors on go live, and the one that are going to rush and won't be able to grab half of the benefit they're supposed to be able to grab from e-invoicing.
So one important point that I take from your advice is that it goes beyond just the tax technology, right? So it is always your master data. It's always, it goes to the level of having clean data before even you think about any technology, tax technology to be implemented.
Absolutely. And,
right. So and this
AI,
comes with a lot of preparation.
And that's the same thing that you see with AI. It's great to have AI, but if you can't rely on your data,
underlying data,
what are you going to do about it? Nothing.
So true. So
right. And one of the other thing as well that, again, because this is typically on the CFO table, is the ERP upgrade, right? So we all know all the big ERP are pushing people to upgrade, right, to the latest and greatest version, right? This is a fantastic time to look at, should we try to be a bit more strategic on how we think about tax and the overall setup that we have, now that we're going to go onto that business transformation journey anyway.
Right.
How about we look at how we can get set up from a future-proof standpoint?
Interesting.
Right? For that, right? Whether it is processes, whether it is technology, whether we may just adding an extra module to that ERP upgrade that you are doing that might give you a lot of. So we talk about master data, right? So all of the latest version of ERPs have a module to help you control, I guess, have a control framework and a governance around master data once it's clean, right? So maybe that's worth looking at.
Amazing.
Right? It's all sort of thing. It's about trying to take a step back and be a bit more strategic about, if you're going to go into that journey, how can you maximize that as much as possible?
I think to a great extent, transformation is also a continuous journey, right? And you keep transforming every now and then.
Especially here.
Right? And major events like invoicing are a wake-up call that you need to think beyond just the basic data.
Exactly.
So in your experience, what are some of the low-hanging fruits for CFOs which they can leverage in terms of strategizing their tax or looking at a certain tax technology?
So the ERP upgrade is definitely one. To be honest with you, using e-invoicing as an excuse to do some of the things you've always wanted to do. Right?
That's a great tip.
So things like, I know for instance, one of my clients, they are using e-invoicing as a way to push a lot of the procurement-driven initiative that they've always wanted to do, but that could not really get the momentum behind it, right?
Got it.
And then there is also a point around, do you only look at the UAE, or do you operate in more countries as well? Because again, there is a strategic insight there. If you're going to go through the exercise of getting ready, changing some of your processes, etc., you should look at this from your overall operation standpoint.
Right.
Because we know today that, for instance, e-invoicing will happen in over 100 countries over the next 5-10 years, easily.
Okay.
That's known fact, right? It started in LATAM about 20 years ago, right? And it's slowly taking over the world everywhere apart from the US because of their tax system and how they are structured as a country. But there are still even some premises of e-invoicing there as well that they are trying to do. So as opposed to looking at, I'm just going to get ready for the UAE. And then when Oman comes online, I'm just going to get ready for Oman. And then when Bahrain comes on, how about you try to
Really
get
for all
set up
markets.
to say, whatever I'm going to invest in now can be leveraged in all of these countries
Right.
in the
Right.
future. And even better, I can also potentially retrofit some of my existing countries, like Saudi, like in Malaysia or Kenya or Uganda or wherever you operate today, that you may have got already there very quick and dirty, whatever, we need to do that. But you may also have a chance to actually onboard those countries when you have the time onto your new blueprint for how you want to deal with that going forward. Because then you only deal with a single vendor, so you can get much better commercial terms. Again, back to the CFO agenda, you reduce the cost, right? So it's those things, right? To
I think this is some
think about.
great insider tips in that sense that, try and push your agenda with the invoicing and also be a step ahead in terms of adopting it at your global level if you are operating in other countries as well. So that's some great insight.
And the other thing as well, I was just thinking again, just going back to AI, is again, that's typically on the CFO agenda today, is being asked, how are you enabling AI?
Right.
How are you funding it, etc.? What sort of initiative have you done as a business? The more quality of data you're going to have inside your organization, and something like a business transformation with e-invoicing gives you access to transactional data, the raw form of your data,
Right.
at your fingertips. Right? Now, there is fantastic AI modeling you can use that for. Right? And you can apply on top of that to give you insight, to look at patterns. Right? So you by having your basics right, if you want, then you have the right foundation to build whatever you want to build as a business on top, right? And as a CFO, what sort of initiative you want to be driving forward, right? But so it has to start, especially these days, with data.
Right.
You don't have a choice.
No, I think data cleansing is on most of the CFOs' agenda today, because no AI. AI is not some magical tool that it'll come and start giving you answers. It'll still dig into the data that your company has, right? So I think that's on everybody's agenda. Maybe invoicing is going to accelerate that cleansing of data that we have always been looking at. Interesting. No, some great insights there. And, I never thought there would be such broad angles or broad views about e-invoicing and how it can help optimize business or unlock efficiencies as well. Some great insights that we were able to unpack there. So Pierre, as a customary, so we end our episode with a rapid fire.
Yeah.
They need not be one-word answers, but they can be short answers. Okay. So here it comes. One book recommendation for our audience.
One would be The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek.
Okay.
So I love the author.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And what is it about? What is Infinite Game about?
So the Infinite Game is his theory, which I agree with, which people in the business world play the wrong game, which is you are trying to be the number one, right? You're just trying to win. And he's like, but win at what? Win at life? How do you win at life? You can't win at life. The way you win at life is you play the game longer than the rest, right? And so you play the game, and so your goal is to have enough resources to play the game longer than everybody else, right? And so the whole point is you need to play the longer game, right? It's not about winning the next quarter. It's about where you're going to be in 20 or 50 years' time as a business. And I resonate a lot with that concept. So I really like that book. I really like that book.
I'll add that one to my list now. One business leader you admire and why?
So some of the business leaders today, unfortunately, I think have become a bit too political for some of them, which I think is a shame. But one which I really like is Warren Buffett.
Okay.
Again, just because he's been very consistent in what he's been doing. I also like the fact that he seems to be very authentic and genuine as a person. And he's built a fantastic business. Right. Whether we like him or not, over the past, 60 years or 70 years that he's been running.
Goes back to the infinite game. I mean,
right?
Play as long as possible.
He's been there forever, right? And consistently doing well, right? I mean, he's, one of his, the annual conference, the shareholder conference, right? That they hold there. Is like, a super gig of, a super famous band, right?
Yeah.
People go there with their family, their kids. It's amazing, right? It's just him talking for like 3 hours about finance and economy and country and whatever. So I really like him. I think he's done extremely well, and I have a lot of respect for him. Definitely.
Amazing, one of it. Amazing choice. AI in finance, buzzword or a reality?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
To be brutally honest.
To say.
I think there is a lot of, it was a bit of like a blockchain back in the day, right? I happen to be one of the people that think that blockchain will change the way we work at some point. Right? We still haven't found that massive use cases, but it will happen. And I think AI is a bit similar in the sense of there is a lot of people who talk about it. Very few actually know what they are talking about, right? And, like you see people claiming they have 10 years worth of Gen AI experience, It's only come out in the public for like 3 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, so I think there is a lot of that. There is a lot of people trying to pretend they know something that they don't, and don't really add value to it. But back to what we were saying, I think if you have your core and your basics right as a business, there is a lot of efficiencies that AI can give you. So we all know the basic use case. So you as a worker can do things a lot faster, right? Because you have your kind of small AI agent on the side and you can do things, etc. But I think as an overall business, for it to learn your pattern to look at and to basically give you insight that you never had before, I think it will happen for sure. Right. But to me, I'm still struggling, and I'm maybe not so much in finance, but definitely in the tax space. I'm still struggling to see actual value, tangible value being driven for a business, not for an individual worker working for a business.
Understood.
For an actual business.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting. One habit that has helped you succeed as a trusted advisor to your clients?
I think keeping true to what you are good at and don't try. So I think, especially as an advisor, it's very easy to become greedy and to think that you can do everything and anything, and you shouldn't. Right? I think people respect you because you keep to what you are good at. You add value there. That's what you are so good at it. If you're not, you should not try to pretend. Right?
Interesting. So be a master at your craft and authentic advice to people.
Being honest about what is your core skill set. Because, I mean, unless, maybe one day I'll meet that person, but I've never met someone who is great at everything.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting. What's the best career advice that you've ever received?
I think the best career advice is you're only as good as the team around you.
Interesting.
Because no matter how good you think you are, you can't do everything on your own.
Right.
And so who is around you in your team, I think has a major influence on how good you are in your work. Right. So that to me has been, picking your team very carefully.
Taking care of your team.
And taking care of them. I think it's super because also they represent you,
right,
outside, right? It's your brand as well.
True.
Yeah?
So true. Oh, interesting. I mean, I'm quite happy with the fact that we were able to unpack so many things on CFO ROIs to tax technology to data cleansing, and finally ending with some great book recommendations and making the fact that team leading is such an important thing for all of us to be successful in our careers. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights here.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure having you here.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.